All righty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to No One Asked Us, episode 28 with Lorie Helms, who's a seasoned tech exec who's been shaping the mortgage tech and fintech world for over 25 years. Lorie currently serves as Chief Operating Officer at LauraMac, where she leads teams through cutting-edge loan origination and servicing platforms. Before that, she held key roles including CTO and CIO at top firms like Cherry Creek Mortgage, Covius, and with me at Allen Hill, helping modernize legacy mortgage systems long before digital transformation was a buzzword material. Her work has not gone unnoticed. Lorie has been honored among elite women in mortgage 2021 and 2022, and named one of the 30 most powerful women in fintech in 2019. And here is Chris Mace, the boomer who was having internet issues, which is why he's late. Lorie, thank you so much for being on the show. I really
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I have to say this: if we're using education as a gauge, Lorie is unquestionably the smartest person who has ever been on this show. So I didn't
doubt that's true.
So Lorie and I used to work together. Lorie put up with me for at least a year, I think, at Allen Hill before that all went very south. We'll probably avoid talking about that, but I didn't know this about you until today, which is you hold dual engineering degrees from Duke. So like not only did you get into Duke, which like that's near impossible to begin with, right? Then to do any engineering degree at Duke, but no, you had to do biomedical engineering and electrical engineering combined.
I think Duke was easier to get into, but I think all schools were easier to get into back then. I do.
Okay. All right.
And I've never really used either one of those degrees.
So this is a perfect opening, right, to the first question: is how on earth does someone who has a biomedical engineering degree end up in mortgage tech? Like, what is the pathway to
it's
that?
It's never straight, right? It's nobody like as a child thinking they want to go into the mortgage industry. So, when I graduated from Duke, I actually did pre-med. So I wanted to go to medical school, but as I graduated, I could not handle more schooling. So kind of at the last minute, I was interviewing and there were recruiters that came to Duke's campus and I took every interview that would have me. And I ended up as a C programmer at a logistics and warehouse management company called Medisys. And so I was there for 10 years. So I didn't actually start out in the mortgage industry. Okay. I started out with like freight management, warehouse management, shipping, all of that. That company sold, and there was the owner of a subprime mortgage company wanted somebody to run their IT group. And was friends with the former owner of the logistics company. And so that's kind of how I got the contact and got into the mortgage industry. So then I started out in subprime, which was the mortgage company that got bought by Goldman Sachs and turned into Avilo and became sort of their diligence branch.
Got it. So that is how you ended up at Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Now, I should know this, but I actually don't know this. Now, obviously, you're are you from Denver? I know you live.
I am from Colorado originally. Okay. Yeah.
So, how did you end up at Allen Hill? Like, where was the connection?
So, Allen Hill was a diligence vendor for Goldman. And when I was wanting to move back to Colorado, I reached out to them. I had been working with them through Goldman. And so I reached out to them when I wanted to move back to Colorado.
Got it. Okay. And then for those who don't follow the secondary market, that was the greatest rise and fall of any company. I think we went from like 20 employees to 600 to 0 in the span of like 2.5 years.
2 years, yeah.
Can I ask what happened?
You want me? It was basically there was a contract fraud, and they tried to sue. Oh God, who was it? It was.
I don't know. I don't know.
They tried to sue somebody.
Yeah.
That company countersued them for contract fraud. The other company won. And basically that just buried them. Yeah. I mean, I think they sued them for like $19 million or something, and they didn't have a penny. And so it went under, and it was a fire sale. I believe Citus AMC bought.
I think it went to Stewart first, because I was still there. Right. It went to Stewart, and then from there it went to Citus. And it, you know, I think Citus still has a lot of the same employees that were at Allen Hill. Yeah. They've kind of stuck together. I know they've used that technology as a foundation for their platform that they rewrote, but it's a lot of the same, especially on the IT side. It's a lot of the same people that.
Yeah, it was a lot of IT. Harlan and
Harlan's there, Ryan Brothers, James.
I'll never forget.
Yeah, they're all still there.
That's right, because they had an office. They rented the office space 2 floors below Allen Hill, in the tech center when Stewart took over.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So yeah. So anyways, that was pretty funny. Okay, so let's. Just jumping for there, we were talking about this early before.
But hey, before you get going, can you tell us about what LauraMac does for?
Well, that's actually where we're going next.
I was like, my research for this one has been onto the side while we've been in this. So I have a newborn.
You get a pass. You've got like a 3-week-old. So
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. So, sorry for not being more prepared, because I'm literally going to find out about your company from you right now.
No, it's interesting. We were talking. Lorie and I were talking about this before the show started, right? Which is, if you're not in the secondary market, you may not actually know a lot about what LauraMac does. And LauraMac does a lot more than where they first started, right? So, Lorie, let's just jump in if you don't mind, because you've got a lot of different products. So this will.
We do. So LauraMac is a SaaS technology provider. I think we have 2 primary products. Our first product is a loan review system, so it's used by the TPR firms to complete their reviews. And we have 13 of the 15 or major TPRs are on the platform. So kind of out of the box, it comes with a securitization review script, but it is completely configurable. So our clients have customized it themselves. In some of our clients, we don't even have access to their production environments, and they can build new workflows and new screens and new review scripts themselves. So that was the first product we had. The second product is sort of the product we're more focused on now, which is our loan acquisition system. And that is for buyers and sellers of loans, right? So it starts at the beginning. The seller uploads their tape or their loan documents, and it kind of kicks off the process. We call out to document vendors and do minimum required doc checks. We extract the data. Then as part of the process, as you want to, have a third party review your loan as you're acquiring it, of course, they're right on the same platform. So it's very easy to place those orders, get results back without ever leaving the system. And then all the way through, you can price and lock. We're integrated with OB and LoanNex. And then all the way through to like settlement and funding on the acquisition side. So that's our loan acquisition product, which is newer. And so, that's kind of where we've been focusing on new enhancements, although we're still enhancing the LRS product as well.
So,
okay, any questions before I go on? Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
No, I said got it. So there's even an LOS in there? Is that what
yeah, so the LOS, I was at Cherry Creek. I was the CTO at Cherry Creek. And they had a proprietary LOS. And when Cherry Creek sold to Guild was not interested in that LOS. And so Jeff May sold the LOS to LauraMac. And the vision was kind of that, as they're building this ecosystem, the LOS would be the first part of that, where you already have this platform with buyers and sellers on it. You already have a platform with TPRs on it. Why not have the origination process on there too? And you could sort of, as you're originating the loan, kind of go ahead and target who you're going to be selling it to, potentially start the review process. So that I came over with the acquisition of the LOS. we spent some time sort of commercializing it, taking out everything that was Cherry Creek, and then the resources that came over from Cherry Creek kind of got pulled into other projects on the LAS side and the LRS side. So we have not yet licensed the LOS, and we haven't yet integrated it with the rest of the platform. So it's kind of sad because we have this amazing LOS technology that we still, have a vision of getting back to, but it's not one of the products we're focused on right now, Chris.
So the first product, just to understand, is like what Andrew you would have used at your last company to like essentially that's your LOS.
It is.
We were talking about this. Canopy was the first go live client on the LauraMac platform, and really LauraMac Canopy would have never happened if it wasn't for LauraMac. I mean, LauraMac really revolutionized the third-party review space because prior to, and this is to give you an idea of it. Prior to LauraMac, there was Clayton, which used to be the 800-pound gorilla in the space, Citus AMC, who now is the 800-pound gorilla in the space, Opus CMC, and Consolidated Analytics. And all four of those companies, well, Clayton and Opus and Citus all started on very, very generic technology, decades ago, right? When it was, standing up, Clayton, which is really kind of the original due diligence company. Steve Lamondo, who started it, actually started it by maxing out credit cards and doing
that.
It always comes back to Goldman Sachs. Yeah, he maxed out all of his credit cards to buy laptops, and he was doing loan reviews for, I think it was like Goldman Sachs and Citi or something like that. And it blew up to this. I mean, when I was there, there were rumors that we were making over $1 million of revenue per day. That's how many loan files were being reviewed by Clayton. Like it was monstrous. But anyways, you fast forward where the technology and the complexity of loans is in like 2020, and you really needed like probably $5 million to start a due diligence company because you needed probably a year to write the software for it. So when LauraMac came in, it was really a game changer where all of a sudden, if you had the secondary market and rating agency expertise, you could actually stand up a third-party review firm. So like Lorie said, they've got 13 of the top 15. Before LauraMac, there was really only 3 or 4 in total.
More TPR firms started up because of that.
Yes, 100%. So the TPR market definitely drastically expanded as a result.
That's kind of a courageous thing to build if there's only like maybe like 5 customers initially, and your bet is that the market is going to expand.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there when they started, but I do think there was such a market for it, right? I think the market was hungry for some tech in that space. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you weren't there when it started, because then I can make the next question really, really blunt. Why the name LauraMac? What is it? Things.
I think it stood for something like loan automated underwriting. I should have studied up on this before this. So it did. Laura stood for something, and then I think they just put Mac on the.
I was gonna find out, like, is it Bob's like daughter's name?
No. It actually stood for something way back when. So.
Okay, my second question is the second product you mentioned, that's a marketplace, right? So you would have like the JP Morgans, Goldmans of the world plug into one side,
yes,
and then you have...
So they would be on the acquiring side, right? And then you would have sellers delivering to them. That's right. It's not a marketplace in that like you shop amongst your buyers or, it's more like partnerships have been set up. It's more of like an ecosystem that's set up for those people to deliver, with their partnerships that they may have already formed, if that makes sense.
Okay. So the partnerships are happening off platform. Then they're saying we're going to do business on this platform.
We're going to make things more efficient. And I think the big draw there is that the TPR firms are on the same platform, right? So some of these big buyers today have to, break their pools into groups and deliver part of them to this TPR and part to this TPR so that it can get all the results back. And so they're logging into multiple portals, but if they're delivering to TPRs that are on our system, then they can place those orders kind of automatically and get the results back automatically as part of the process.
Very cool.
Okay, real quick. I'm not saying this is correct because it just came from ChatGPT, but according to ChatGPT, it is actually named after Chris Sada's daughter.
I don't think that's the case.
Which it's really funny because I kept asking. I was like, "Are you sure? Are we talking about the same one?" I'm like, "Who's?" And it keeps saying Laura McDonald, the daughter of Chris Sada. So
I don't think that's the case, but I could be wrong. Really quick, I want to talk about the third product we have, which is sort of a light product, which is called Hub, Data Hub, and it is for firms that are using all of our TPR, multiple TPRs, but they just want to get consolidated results back. So, it has a portal where you can log in and pull results across your TPRs, or you can schedule those reports to be delivered. It doesn't have any of the workflow and pricing and locking and everything that the full LAS has, but it's more of a light product where you can pull your results back together.
Fascinating.
I mean, and then what? I mean, the LOS I feel like is going to be, it would be huge for you guys because now, what has always been one of the issues is getting LOS data that's
getting
clean
the
and
correct data
into the third party review.
Yes. I think vision is really, really neat. I hope that, we fully go down that path.
Is that like, are we talking like years out, months out? Like,
I think we're more focused on our existing platforms today. I think that's it's a shift for us to focus on that. And I don't know, Andrew, sort of what the timeline would be. I don't think it'll be a 2026 initiative.
That makes sense. I mean, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
That does. More questions about LauraMac?
Real quick question. The vision there would be that you'd be able to do a TPR review while the loan is being originated on the platform itself.
Potentially, right? Or even, you could do the review as you're being originated, and then you can, of course, make corrections before you've closed the loan with all the mistakes, right? So that's one thought. The other thought is that as you're originating it, the buyers that are on the platform could see into that, right? And see what's available. So you could start to target your outcome for the loan as you're originating it.
Which is huge because the biggest problem within the TPR space is delay of getting the loan off of the warehouse line. As quickly as possible. And if you could get to like rating agency grade certainty on day one of the loan being closed, now all of a sudden it's like, I don't necessarily need to deliver to Fannie or Freddie, right? It may make more sense for me now to deliver my agency loans over to, say a JP Morgan or a Goldman Sachs.
Yeah. The other thing I want to call out about LauraMac is kind of the whole system architecture is based on the fact that you will have multiple sources of data for the same data point. So, for every data field, you can define your hierarchy of how you want to source that data. And it'll, based on what data you actually have, choose the source of truth on a field by field basis. And so I think that's really unique in this part of the market, right? So as you're getting data from your seller and you're getting data from your TPR firm, and perhaps you're doing a review yourself, right? You have all these different sources of data, even off your different documents, you can get the same data points. And so the system allows for that, sort of conceptually, foundationally allows for there to be those multiple data sources, which I think makes it unique.
So let's jump into everybody's favorite buzzword, although I think it's starting to wear on me, and I own an AI company. I've stopped telling people. I'm like, I run a software company. I won't even say AI anymore. It feels like, especially since every time I turn around, there's another, which it's fine. But it's so funny how many mortgage lenders are now starting AI companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have picked up on this in the space, but it's really fascinating to me how many AI providers there are that are out there that are actually owned by a mortgage originator, which I find really interesting because like that you would go license tech from your competitor. It seems like such a weird thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To me anyway. So all that being said, where do you see some of the most realistic near-term opportunities for AI, in any sector of mortgage operations? Yeah. We can talk about all of them, any of them.
I mean, you're probably more qualified to answer that than me, Andrew. I think it's like, it's the repetitive tasks. I think it's looking at large groups of data and finding outliers, right? So perhaps some risk management from that. And then, the guidelines, looking at guidelines and, seeing if loans meet guidelines, answering guidelines questions, I think are the short-term things. And I also think there's improvements coming in like doc extraction and data extraction, although eventually maybe that goes away and we stop generating docs from data and then using the docs to extract the data later in the process, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pain point for us is, when you think about it, most technological revolutions are always like speed of information from human to human, right? So, we talk about, the printing press, the typewriter, the computer, all of these things were all designed. I mean, the internet, all of these were designed to transfer knowledge from one human to another. Now, all of a sudden, we're trying to transfer knowledge from humans to a machine, and it's like this is not working. So like the amount of transformation we have to do with data, because the AI is just like, no, I don't actually understand this, right?
Yeah, and there's so much just rechecking, right, throughout the process, re-extracting the same data from the same document at servicing as you did during, loan acquisition, as you did during the TPR review. There's so much redundant checking of the same data throughout the process, right?
The QCing of the QCer, who QC'd the QCer.
Yeah, exactly.
It does. Exactly. It does.
Or you QC your own loan that you're buying back.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, that's actually happened, right? I mean, I know I've heard.
It's a really good. I've never had anybody say that, but it's actually a really good point and pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny when there's findings. I remember whenever I've had a call before, whenever I was still running Momentum, and we like got on a call, and then I just stopped and I said, "This says it was non-delegated," and they're like, "Oh yeah, never mind, sorry." And it's like, you underwrote this. Like, what are we doing here? Well, I want to ask Sean's question since we this is close to this topic. Sean was the guest from last week, Lorie, and so at the end of this, I don't know if you've been teed up.
I forgot to tell Lorie this minor detail. So at the end, Lorie, we always have the person ask a question that we will ask the next guest, which in a moment I'll tell you who the next guest is.
Yeah.
But we'll do that at the end so you can think about it. But Chris, what was the question?
Sean, I want to ask you, what do you believe is the most common mistake lenders make in technology?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is a good one. I think, and that's not just lenders, right? But I think a common technology mistake is automating bad processes, right? Or like making a process more efficient without first seeing why you were doing that process in the first place and if it's really necessary. I think we're always like, this is what we do today. How do we do this faster? Without saying like, do we really need to do that? Or why are we doing that? So I think that would be my answer. It's not lender specific, I guess, but just, companies utilizing technology in general.
I think the mortgage industry, though, does struggle in terms of a desire to change process. And I think part of that may just be the complexity of the process change.
It is 1,000,000% that. Like when I was consulting with I remember, rolling out an LOS will expose the inefficiencies in a company and the personalities that are the amount of people that will get upset and reactionary to feeling like they're threatened because they don't actually understand that job role as much as that you would believe. And you start asking well, what disclosures should go out on this type of loan? And they're like, I don't know. We can figure that 20 years ago. I don't know. So there's so much little pieces of it.
I think people aren't sure why. They're not really aware of why they're doing all of the steps they're doing. Right. So
then I click this green button. What does that green button do? It's in the job aid. When did you get that job aid? When I got hired here.
But it is the perfect example is and Lorie kind of said something about this at the beginning when we were talking, or before the show, is perfect example is the number of people in the mortgage industry that don't know what a TPR is, right? That have no idea about the secondary market and then it exists, or what goes on in it. And then the vice versa, right? Is you have a lot of people in the secondary market who don't necessarily understand the pains of the origination market.
And yet these two things are so impactful to each other, right? So many of the things we're doing during origination is because of what's going to happen in secondary, right? And so many of the things we're doing in secondary is to react to something that happened during originations. But I think it's true.
Well, and it used to be even worse because prior to, I think the first it's funny. I actually know exactly. This is so depressing that I can say this. I actually know where I was when the very first Reliance letter was ever written. And it was between Opus CMC and HSBC when HSBC was doing all those, they're doing a bunch of pre-diligence to sell off their entire portfolio. But prior to that, the TPR firms, what I did on the due diligence side, we never spoke to lenders. We only spoke to the investment banks, right?
And so then how did you deal with findings? And
a lot of times it went back through the investment bank.
Through the investor.
So JP Morgan, or Goldman, I remember Goldman, when I was at Clayton, they wanted us to produce back those, or we would deal with one person at Countrywide. Right. And it was that was the person. We sent them the exceptions. Now we understood, and it was very obvious. When I sort of started the shift towards front end of housing, I'm how does this stuff work? I can underwrite a loan. I understood the loan, but what I didn't understand was how it got to the point. A great one was, and I think Chris was the one who told me this, one time when he was oh yeah, lenders have multiple LOSs. And I was wait, what? That makes absolutely no sense. He's yeah, they have multiple POSs, CRMs. And I'm what? So and even when you look at the industry, you have a lot of conferences that are completely separate. Right.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's you don't even necessarily have commingling of the different components of the industry. And obviously housing and mortgage is a monster industry, but it is really fascinating how much
segregated these pieces of the process are.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. I was in 2022 when I first got into the industry. I was recommended to go to this conference in DC for.
This is right before you out of high school, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel so old now. Thanks, Pete.
It was the 5-star conference, which is a servicing conference, but I didn't know that. And I was just I'll just go there and meet all these people and I can ask them questions. I'm in the room with all these servicing people and I'm asking them questions, just trying to understand how the industry works. And I was asking them a question about origination and they didn't know how it all worked. And I was wait, what? And that was and initially I was I'm going to build this mortgage company that's going to do X, Y, Z. And I'm oh no, this industry is way bigger and way more fragmented than I initially thought.
Yeah.
And so it got slapped in the face with that reality.
So tell me more generally about the industry. Where do you think we're still lagging when it comes to technology in the mortgage space? Are there some particular areas that you feel?
I think, I think it's these segregated systems, right? And the checking of the checking, because you have to keep passing data back and forth. So I think that's really where there's the most chance to really improve across the whole life cycle. I think especially in the secondary market side, right? There's so many, that's kind of the final point where things come together, and you have visibility to everything that happened during origination. And so much of it's still being done in different systems and trying to pull different data together. I mean, even, fraud checks and compliance checks and all of those are going out and coming back. And there's really not adoption of like tokenized data yet. So I think it would be that, Andrew, like these separate systems.
Which I don't understand for the life of me. I like the absolute number one best use case for blockchain is housing.
I mean, you would think, right?
And I mean, we were having these conversations with oh gosh, I'm gonna blank on his name now, but the guys over at Liquify. We were having conversations with them back in 2020, and I know they've done some stuff with Redwood and Angel Oak in tokenizing some of the securitizations.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, it's like, why are we not tokenizing this data like from jump? Because like I don't think anybody's come out with a blockchain LOS like that. Again, like that to me would be there you go, Chris. There's your next thing you can build, blockchain LOS. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Nobody's enough psychopath to build LOS these days.
What a little AI at the end of it.
Yeah.
But it would solve for so many problems. I feel like if we did have, a blockchain for the loan from beginning to end in its perpetuity, right?
We just have so many systems, right? So many systems that this data has to go to. And then it's a risk too. The data's sitting at all these places, right? I mean, as a consumer, the number of places where there can be a breach and your data is like, it's everywhere, right? It's gone to the doc vendors, it's gone to the TPR vendors, it's gone to the...
Well, and we just had a data breach a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Over at Citus, which, it's, the reality is like, it's a big target. And I couldn't agree more when you have the data spread out all over the place.
Yeah.
So speaking of data, the guest next week is going to be Brian View, who's now the president of Mismo.
That is correct. Yes.
So the president of Mismo. So that could start stirring up a question in your brain when it comes to data standardization.
That is the first recognizable employee that Mismo has ever had, I think.
Well, I think it's a really good hire. I'm glad we're going to talk to him because I think it was a lot of light.
I think it was a brilliant hire by Mismo because I think it gives some attention to what Mismo does. I actually talked to Brian and I had to admit to him, I was like, I'm like, I don't know what do you guys do? Like, I mean, I know they do some data stuff, but like I was like, do you do like, I know the Mismo standard, but like, is there more?
That'll be a good episode.
Yeah.
Did y'all go to the webinar last week, the MCD one? Mortgage compliance data set?
I did not.
Okay.
No, I don't have time.
It was very nerdy, but it was really good.
I can't wait till you have your first kid, PK. The amount of times it's like, what are you up to? I was like, dude, I have a baby.
Lorie, just so you know, like we get more like DMs and text messages from PK on Instagram, on Slack, tag, and I'm like, you need a girlfriend or something. What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about tech and mortgage?
That's interesting. I think, the assumption that tech is always going to make the consumer experience better. I think, we've given them all these tools, we've given them portals. And I think sometimes the process is maybe more confusing than it was when you had somebody sort of holding your hand and walking you through it. And I think depending on the consumer and, how tech savvy they are. I think there's sort of an assumption that technology is going to make everything better for the consumer, and I'm not sure. I feel like they're getting more confused and having less visibility into the things that are going on.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, I always joke that I use my wife as like where technology is at. My wife's a psychologist. She's the most non-tech person you'll meet. And I remember when she
coming from you, that's rich.
You should have seen that one coming from a mile off. But like when she came to me and she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm using ChatGPT," and I was like, "Oh, I'm like ChatGPT has finally arrived." Like when my wife is using
now it's here.
But it's a really good point. Is like I know it even happens to me, right? Which is we are so close to it that we assume. Oh,
everybody wants it, right? Everybody's
everybody's going to understand it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how many times do you get a user interface where you're like, oh,
yeah.
I mean, the best example, like one of my favorite examples that just came to mind was Figma, right? Outside of mortgage, right? But like, if you've ever used Figma, it is like near impossible, unless you're like a marketing genius.
Yeah.
Anytime I want to do an edit in it. What are you laughing at, PK?
I love Figma. I thought you were about to go a different direction.
I think the user interface is very difficult.
Yeah, it was when you first use it, and then you kind of play around with it. You're like, oh, you press this button and this does this. And
right, but that's my point. I think that happens, like to what Lorie was saying, I think happens in mortgage tech and you have to remember the borrower has a one-time experience every 7 years with that tech, right?
It's like opening Adobe Photoshop. Like if you know what you're doing, you're like, this is an amazing piece of software. If you don't, you're logging into that thing going, what on earth?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a trust thing too, of like, I'm not really sure I want to give my bank credentials to this other entity so that they can check my assets, right? And I'm not really. I mean, I know people who don't even want to put questions in ChatGPT because they think it's learning about them, right? So I think it's the ease of use and also the trust of the technology from a consumer.
Are all those people
more? You have to choose your path. It's like you got to offer all of them for type of borrower. You got to be able to do a loan for Andrew and PK. Two different.
Well, it's funny you say that because I remember my mom. She would not. We bought her an iPad. This was a decade ago or more. And we bought her an iPad so that she could FaceTime with the kids, right? And like we had an iPad, and she would not set up an Apple ID because in order to have an Apple ID, you have to put a credit card on file.
Yeah.
And she was like, absolutely not. I won't do that. And I was like, what? Like. Yeah. So it will also become, I think, an age thing.
It will become an age thing, I think, too. Right.
Even I've noticed at my previous company, since COVID, the number of people that have embraced things like to get single source verification, the different like PLAS or those things, those numbers have gone up like exponentially every year since COVID. Yeah. So that's another thing. I think more of the boomers are getting more comfortable doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I do agree with you. The number of people who are willing to use Plaid, it becomes difficult, right? Because like I've seen tools that are out there that like they're 100% based on you assuming the customer will use Plaid or Argyle.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, I think we know how much more efficient it's going to make the process, right? It's genius, right? And it's like I think it's a hurdle with the consumers, either from an ease of use or a trust perspective.
Do you think there's a communication issue there though? Also, because like if you think about it, like okay, so I have two options with my bank statements. Mm-hmm. I can either email you PDF copies of my bank statements.
Yeah.
Or I can give you encrypted digital access, one-time access to my bank account.
Yeah.
I think it's both because we did see certain loan officers be like, "Oh, nobody wants to do it." It's like, these 5 guys seem to get everybody to do it.
That's right.
So I think it is communication.
Yeah, it is.
So nobody's asking for this information, but I just got a Robinhood Gold card. And I know I found out other banks do this, but you can go into the app and be like, I want to make a credit card that's good for one day. So it'll give you a credit card number, expiration date, and your name. It goes to your address, but it's good for one day.
Wow.
Or you can do one that's like, hey, make this good for a month. Or hey, or you can just be like, make a new credit card. And then we've made one called all of our subscriptions. And so we put all of our subscriptions on it. And then if whoever need be, we're just going to cancel that one. But you can just kind of hit create new one, but it's digital. You don't get an actual.
You don't get a physical card.
Yeah. But I can just go in here right now and be like, give me a 24-hour credit card. Or you can also do a single time use. So it's like, I'm really sketchy. This seems sketchy. Yeah. It'll work one time and then stop. Anyway, there's a no.
That's brilliant, especially when you're like, I always get a little bit like if I'm in a developing nation, I'm always like, like what's gonna happen with my credit card at this restaurant? That's such a great. That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
So I think the banking apps are starting to do that, but there was a bunch of websites, and they're still around. But back in the day when I used to flip sneakers in college, and we would always we would set up multiple credit cards, all these virtual credit cards on different websites, so they wouldn't block us. But I think the banks are starting to roll that out.
Someone told me that because I was like, "Oh, Robinhood can do this," and like, "Yeah, my bank does it too." And I was like, "Oh," so I know it's out there for other banks. So.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been eating over here, and you guys, I'm on baby time, so I got to eat.
You have a 4-week. You have a 4-week old. You're allowed to do whatever you want. That's how this works.
So one of the things I kind of want to ask Lorie about, like, it was funny hearing you talk. Like, when it comes to project management, choosing what you're going to do next, like it seems like you've already kind of looks like it's in the back of your brain. Like, how do you decide what you're going to work on next?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I think.
Is it just money? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, some of it is the return, right? But I think and it's from an efficiency perspective, and I go back to adoption, right? I think, especially at LauraMac, we're very focused on features that will be adopted and used, and not sort of maybe don't have the bells and whistles that are going to not get used and maybe become tech debt. So I think we focus a lot on adoption, revenue, and efficiency. They are the three drivers.
So have you seen the pace of development kind of make you take a step back on certain things? Like you mentioned, hold off on the LOS, as you've seen the speed of development kind of make you, I've had to make changes to how we've thought about things.
Yeah, I think so. And, I do think you have to be focused. You can't have 20 initiatives or nothing will get done, right? And so I think you do have to prioritize and pick and execute on a few things well, which is hard to do for sure, especially in this industry when things are changing so fast.
Well, and also I think, and I'd be curious to see if you've seen this as well, is what we have noticed, particularly over the last 12 months, is that as people have used AI more and more, it's like everybody's become a CTO. Chris and I, it was so funny. Chris and I spoke at the NEMBC conference earlier this year, or back in fall. And I asked the room, we were talking about AI, and I asked the room, I was like, how many people here are in the technology department? There was like 150 people in the room. 2 people raised their hands. Right. And it was like, so I'm like, everybody else is sales and ops. Are you seeing that you've got, because what we're seeing is everybody has an opinion on the new thing that you should be building. And it gets difficult because, to your point, like, one, are you seeing that? But also 2, what's your framework, if you don't mind sharing, of how you approach identifying where adoption is really going to be, right? Because just because, Jimmy has this great idea, that doesn't mean that Susie's going to adopt that same great idea.
And, we see it with vendors too. I feel like there's all these new vendors popping up in this industry all across the life cycle, right? And everybody, it sounds genius, right? Every idea seems like a good one. And I think it's very hard, Andrew, to know adoption. And like with vendors, we've sort of started to rely on our clients to say, which vendors are you actually going to use, or are you using already outside of our system? And then we'll move forward with those integrations, right? But I think it's important to rely on clients or potential clients or the industry to see what they're taking an interest to, because I don't think it's always the same thing as the tech provider that you think would be the most beneficial.
Right. Yeah.
Also, Andrew, you left out the other part. I think when you had asked them of the room how many of those people were expected to feel like they were like supposed to be knowledgeable or on top of all the AI stuff, and almost everybody raised their hand. It's like,
which I thought was so interesting, because like I was like, if it was, if this was 15 years ago and we were talking about like, cloud computing, like nobody would have shown, right? Like nobody would have shown up, right? But something about this is just
nobody wants to be left behind on this, for sure.
Yeah, and it's just and everyone has an opinion. There is absolutely no question about that. The thing that I think is a little bit damaging, and I'm not going to call the person out, but there was a post I saw on LinkedIn today, and I was like, you clearly don't understand like what AI can do, because like it was so far reaching. I was like, maybe in 20 years, but like we're not there, right?
Well,
like
a point I wanted to make earlier was that I think a lot of people are like, now it's kind of good, kind of bad, but it's like, at least what we're seeing across our clients are like they're a lot more open to adopting technology now than they were before, like a year ago, 2 years ago, like using just simple like API integrations was like, oh, like, that's too expensive, we don't want to do that, we don't want to get rid of this role maybe that's currently being done by a person and it's technically quote unquote free, and now they're like, oh, let's actually automate that and we'll retrain this person to actually.
And I think people are becoming more familiar, right? More people know what an API is, right? And so that drives adoption too. Yeah.
Well, I think the AI has had people lean into change in a way that, Andrew, you've said this too, or I have people regularly. Could you have AI and then what they ask afterwards is like something you could have done 20 years ago? It's like, is there a way that you can like automatically have this document go into the e-folder like at this certain point? Like, what if AI could do that? And you're like, that's like about 25 years ago, maybe, or maybe 15
before AI. Yeah,
we get a lot of automation that does like requests that just doesn't require generative AI, for sure. I definitely hear that quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right, let me go to some quick questions. What industry?
We're doing a lightning round.
What?
We're doing a lightning round.
I think we're gonna do a lightning round.
I'm nervous.
Yeah. I got one prepared here. We'll see.
Oh, so my someone I'm obsessed with.
If you read your email, you would have seen it. What industry? You get a pass. You have a 4-week-old. What industry buzzword would you ban if you could?
I would say probably the word disruptive. I think we're like we're trying so hard. Like any change feels like it needs to be a major shift now. And I think we're losing sight of the fact that some of these small changes that are incremental are easier to implement and have a big impact. So I think everything's about disrupting this industry or disrupting this process. And I'd say that would be the word I would.
That's actually I actually love that. That's phenomenal. We throw revolutionize in there as well. As another one. What change in mortgage technology would blow your mind if it became standard in 5 years?
I guess something, I would have to say something consumer facing would be where I would go, right? So something that sort of knows the consumers and knows who needs a mortgage and what product they need and how much help they're going to need and how tech savvy they are, and kind of helps them through that process, right? Put that in the bucket of things that won't really happen in 5 years that you were just talking about, Andrew. But I think something that really targets the consumer and makes the process easier for them all the way through, whether they need tech help or whether they need a different product or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think like what we touched on earlier, like talking about like the Plaid and the Argyles, and I think it's going to come down to how much data are people willing to give, right? Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting to kind of hear how everybody falls in this camp. Like, I always joke that like I hate when people talk about privacy. Like, it actually cracks me up because I'm like, you gave away privacy like 12 years ago.
It's all out there, right?
Like, I mean, your iPhone listens to you. If you don't think you're crazy, Alexa listens to you. So, like, for instance, myself, I have absolutely no problem with ChatGPT knowing everything about me. I find it incredibly helpful. And so, but we do know we also have a segment, like you said, of the industry who will not use this tool because they're scared that it's going to know stuff about them. How does everybody else? Where do you guys all? I mean, you guys all like fall into the camp of like, if it makes my life easier, I'm willing to give up the privacy.
I think I love targeted ads. like
100%.
I remember somebody being like, I don't want these ads popping up. I was like, well, I don't get anything for Barbies. I don't get like, I've got my ads are like usually serving me correctly. What's funny is we came back from a vacation and it was from Hawaii. And then it was like the Monday after. And then, I'm like, babe, I'm just overwhelmed. Like I can't help with the kids. Audrey this morning, she goes, happy anniversary. And I was like, oh, and that was the moment I knew it was my anniversary. And she goes, and then she started laughing. She goes, I knew you would have forgot. We had a lot going on. The only reason I knew was because I got a targeted ad 2 days ago on Instagram that said, hey, here's a good way to like remember your anniversary. And so it's the only way. She goes, it's not here in time, but I did get you something. It's not here yet. And so anyway, there's a lot of serving stuff there. Anyway, I don't know that I'm in the middle. I think that the things that it can do to serve you. I used to be more of like the no, and now I'm like, yeah, just go for it. Like,
I started using Brave browser. I don't know if you guys have used it before, but it's like it blocks all the ads and all the tracking cookies and things like that. It doesn't even show it to you, so like you don't have to like when you go to a website, you don't have to do all that. It's been nice. Like I feel like my internet usage is like.
I'm gonna send you a podcast. A guy that they interviewed, it was from the NSA, and he was like, he goes, when you do hit accept cookies, he's like, it doesn't matter. I hit accept. He goes, they know.
They know. I just feel like they know, and I also feel like I'm not that interesting of a person that people really care about when my anniversary is or what I'm getting for Christmas or whatever, right? Like I don't know.
I think it's all used to just sell you stuff. Like I know a person who buys like these cookie datas. Like there's like places where you can go and buy like large swaths of data, and then you can run targeted ads to those people based on age, whatever. Like all these different
I know. I want those ads.
Like I want ads for stuff I want. Like that's my angle on it. You know what I mean? Now I did make the mistake. I was we did this trip to Belize, and I was gonna get my wife I have this like awesome, it's like a carry-on backpack that I got years ago from Patagonia. They don't make it anymore, but it's like waterproof, and it's like my go-to travel thing. And since we were going to be like on boats and small planes and stuff, I wanted to get one for my wife. And so I started searching for it. My God, my Instagram will not stop suggesting carry-on backpack.
It's like you want to tell it that you bought it. Like I'm no longer.
I know, that's the one thing I wish. I wish I could be like, dude, I bought it. I don't need it. Like we're good. Like, I'm done with
after the wrong.
Okay, what book, habit, or mindset has most influenced your leadership style? And I will say real quick for everybody, while you think about that question, I have worked with a lot of leaders over the year. And while Lorie and I only worked for 1 year, Lorie is one of the calmest leaders I have ever worked with. I don't think I'm sure you do get mad, but I don't think I've ever actually seen Lorie get mad.
That's good.
And that says a lot because I was kind of an asshole back then.
Good.
Damn it, I'm walking into
the work in progress.
I would have to say it's like a people first mindset. So I think people you lose track of the fact that people are really what's driving things, right? So more than your product, more than your process, I think getting the right people in the right roles with the authority and desire to innovate, and then just getting hurdles out of their way is the best way to build a successful team or a successful organization. So I'm not sure if that directly answers the question. Yeah.
Lorie, did you play sports when you were young?
I did in high school. I didn't play in college. Why? What was that? Why? What made you ask that?
I don't know. Like maybe you were like, I don't know, part of like you were like a coach, or I don't know, like something related to that, like sports.
Yeah, I wasn't a coach ever.
No coaching youth sports.
No coaching, no.
All right, there you go. What would you say? So the industry has gotten a little bit better in terms of diversity. Long way to go. There's no question about that. But I mean, I can say like 20 years ago, like I walked into a room and like everybody looked like me, like everybody. As a matter of fact, if you still ABS East, they still all look like me.
Same thing with that servicing conference.
They're like, can we find one token woman to be on the stage, please? You know, so the industry has gotten better, but are there things you feel like I feel like we're seeing more and more women in tech. But what do you feel like people can do? Like, what are the things that people like PK and Chris and I can do, you know, to continue to help grow that? Because I think it's really important, especially in tech, right? Because you need as many different opinions that come from different thought processes and experiences.
Yeah. I think we've gotten better at hiring, right? So I think the hiring is working better. I think the support after that still needs some work, right? So I think it's like mentoring and sponsoring and training and, you know, like just including people in meetings and a seat at the big table, even before people are ready, so that they can kind of hear and listen and learn what goes on, right? How the process works.
That's an excellent point. I've actually talked about this before. Like the only reason that I've gotten to where I've gotten is because of exposure.
It's just exposure,
to amazing human beings. It's why I always hate when people are like, "I'm self-built or self-made." I'm like, no, you're not. Just shut up. Like all of us got here because of other people.
Yeah.
All right, we've only got a couple of minutes left. Lorie, is there anything we didn't ask that we should have?
No, I think this has been great. Thank you for including me.
Okay, so that brings up the final thing, which is you now have to ask the question of Brian View, president at Mismo.
So I'm glad you told me that early on so I could be thinking about it for the last 45 minutes. I think I would ask, like, how do you balance standardization versus customization? Because even in Mismo, right, we have all these standards and then we have all these other fields and one-off things that we need to be able to support. So that would be my question for him.
And I think Chris is in the spreadsheet typing it. We had this problem early on where we would ask this and then we would like completely, none of us would remember what the question was.
It was a last minute dive. I'm over here watching the videos going through this.
Like, get the replay. That's why we always asked it at the end. It was like, okay, we got to go to the replay and rewatch the show to figure out what it is. Lorie, thank you so much.
I really
appreciate you being on here. It's been wonderful to hear you and everything that LauraMac is doing. We'll throw that QR code up there again for everybody. You know, I would recommend everyone in the mortgage industry go learn more about LauraMac and what they do. Because again, I think you guys are really doing a phenomenal job at, you know, starting to really unify the industry, particularly when it comes to the data component, because it is just ridiculous the amount of things that get done multiple times
manually, separate systems. So
awesome. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you back next week with
thank you so much.
All right, thanks, guys.